Hello, friends. Welcome to my webinar, which is on DevOps for the beginners. And I'm your host, Prashant Kumar. Welcome to my channel Q Analysis. Let's begin with our today's presentation. So, as I understand, most of you who are over here at this webinar, you must be looking for an answer to the question, what is DevOps? And how exactly the DevOps thing it works, and what are its uses, benefits. Let's say, being a beginner, there could be so many questions in your mind which you'd like to find answers using this webinar. And that is the reason I am here hosting this webinar. So please feel free to subscribe my channel, and you can get to know a lot many more uh, topics and many things related to software testing industry, software management industry, and project management industry. Feel free to check out my other webinars and presentations. So let's begin with our today's webinar, that is DevOps for the beginners. So let's try to figure out the answer, what is DevOps? I have a sketch for you in front of me, and you can see there are different people holding different parts of a elephant, but all of them, they're having a their eyes tied, and they cannot figure out what exactly is the thing which they are looking. And everybody has their own perception. So this is what exactly is happening in the IT industry. Most of the people who are beginners, they have some knowledge about, okay, DevOps is like this, DevOps is like that, but they don't have a complete overview or complete knowledge of exactly what it is. And that is the reason we are here. So let's begin with our webinar. Before I answer what is DevOps, we have to find out why and how this DevOps thing came into picture. So, before year 2007, the manufacturing industry was going through a lot many changes, and since 1950s and 60s, there were changes in manufacturing industry, and Japan was the leader. They introduced Toyota, I guess. Yeah, Toyota was the company to introduce lean process in manufacturing industry, and it was getting very popular. And by early 90s and 2000, this was very popular concept among manufacturing industry. In IT, traditional waterfall approach of development was already giving way to rapid iterative methods such as Agile. Yes, so up till 1990s and 2000, waterfall approach was the most commonly used approach, and everybody was using it. But then there came the Agile approach in early 2000, and then the traditional way of software development was moving from waterfall towards speedy and iterative methods like Agile. In operations and infrastructure side of IT, cloud computing, and in particular the infrastructure as a service, that is IaaS, and platform as a service, that is PaaS, IaaS and PaaS were coming into their own mature service offering. So earlier cloud was just a concept, but by year 2007, let's say in 2000 to 2007 or 2009, cloud computing and IaaS and PaaS became very popular, and they got to mature down, because of which the usability increased. There was a much larger market user base for this cloud computing services. The fledgling set of tools classified as continuous integration tools began to emerge in market. Yes, there were so many open source tools, and many of them for continuous integration came into picture. And at the same time, there was a battle for speed. So speed was the battle cry, and even if quality output was occasionally compromised in the pursuit of rapidness, it was okay, because most of the products, they were rushing towards a speedy delivery for their customers. And that is the time when this all changes were taking place. the concept of DevOps came into picture. So in year 2007 to 2009, by that time, many people were thinking about a speedy way in which deployment or releases could be shared with the customers in a very speedy and fast manner. And there, it was okay, even if user used to have a little bit of problem or quality was a little bit compromised, because even if something was broken, it could be resolved in the next version or the upcoming version with a very fast, quick patch or hot fix, something like that. So these things came into picture. So before I move on to the next slide, let's talk about the history of DevOps. And this slide of mine talks about the history of DevOps in a very diagrammatic way. Let's figure it out how. So you see in year 2007, there was a Belgian project manager. His name was Patrick Debois. He started assessing the IT value chain. And I guess he is the first person officially recognized as the father of DevOps because he came up with the concept of DevOps. In year 2008, there was an administrative group which was created, Agile System Administrative Group, which was created on Google, wherein a lot many other people across the globe, they joined it. 2008 itself, Andrew Clay and Patrick Debois met at the Agile conference and they started to work on the concept of DevOps. In year 2009, the inaugural DevOps Days, it was held at the Ghent, Belgium. And then at the Velocity conference, it was also much more talked about, the DevOps concept. It was year 2009 and 10 when open source tool like Chef came into picture and a lot many other tools like GitHub and Jenkins, they came into picture in early period of 2009-10, and people started to look into more and more such kind of things. There was by 2010 there was storm of adjacent methodologies working together, and it was like so many different kind of concepts of working together in order to make things fast by using cloud, by using shared system, by using parallel computing, by using different methodologies, agile methodologies, and they were introduced into IT. By year 2000, DevOps will hit a big time in year 2015 across the enterprises and organizations. It was in year 2012 when the industry leaders such as CA Technologies, SP, and IBM, they started accessing the market with respect to DevOps tool. And they started working on different kind of internal household DevOps tools. In year 2013, Jenny Kim, he released his book, The Phoenix Project. This is a very important thing to mention over here. This book was a fictional story wherein a project manager, he was badly stuck in a project wherein timelines are not met and deliverables are not working fine, and he's missing on every deadlines. And then at that point of time, there's a secret mentor from one of the board of directors. He started helping him, and then he started working with him, finding different kind of solutions, and most of the solutions were based upon cloud computing and DevOps like thing. And that's because of that, the DevOps concept and the cloud computing becomes such a big hit across the globe among IT professionals. In year 2014, DevOps began to provide positive impact to enterprises and IT organizations and created a seismic kind of effect for adoption rate. So there was a volcanic eruption of DevOps-based companies, and people started using it. Same year in 2014, DevX is born and Exceed launches 12 days of DevOps. By year 2015, everybody was so much interested. Anybody who is in IT, industry or software industry, somehow they started thinking about moving to DevOps so as to move, because it was a well-established concept and everybody wanted to have DevOps in their organization so as to ensure that they are working fine and they are in pace with the current market scenarios, and the releases are faster, and there was no separate segregation between the development team and the operations. It was moreover a common united team known as DevOps. So with this, we come to this question, which was the main question with which we started our webinar. What is DevOps? So what do you think? DevOps is made up of two things: developers and IT operations, right? Which is like very much evident and which is very much clear. But then when I say developers, it is not only the developer, it is all those stakeholders which are responsible for developing a software, which includes developers, testers, business analysts, or maybe any business stakeholders, plus IT operations, who are responsible for different kind of deployment, managing the workflow and pipelines, working into releases and providing patch and doing all kind of IT operation related works. So DevOps was a combination of development team and IT operations team. And if you ask me personally, I believe DevOps is an approach based upon agile and lean principles in which development, operations, and quality assurance team collaborate, learn, and communicate seamlessly to deliver software in a continuous, stable manner. So if you see, it has few basic keywords. In my definition, I have used the basic keywords. First, agile. DevOps, which is not agile, I don't think it is very productive. It has to be agile. DevOps, when integrated with agile methodologies, then only it becomes very fast, iterative, and productive. And then it should have lean principles involved. So when I say lean principles, there is no scope for wastages. You can get to know more about agile and lean principles if you refer my blog post at my blog or LinkedIn, or if you check my other videos from my site, from my channel. Please feel free to subscribe my blog or my channel, and you can get to know more about agile and lean principles. The third one is talking about development, operations, and quality assurance team. So everybody is included over here. Then they collaborate, learn, and communicate seamlessly. So in earlier model of development, all these departments were separate, and there used to be a communication channel between them, and they used to communicate things. But now with DevOps coming into picture, may it be developer, may it be quality assurance, may it be IT operations, they collaborate, learn, and communicate seamlessly without any hindrance between them. There is no boundaries. They can communicate seamlessly. They can collaborate seamlessly, and together they can learn so as to deliver a software in continuous, stable manner. When I say continuous, it is not just the continuous delivery. Continuous delivery consists of continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing, and then all these three things combined together for a high quality continuous delivery in a stable manner. So everything has to be stable. In my upcoming slides, you'll get to know more about this point, and then we'll discuss it in detail. Let's see the DevOps value chain. Now we know what exactly is DevOps. After that, we have to know what is the value chain which is driving the DevOps. First, Dev and Ops collaborate to develop environment definitions. And what value they are generating? When Dev and operation team collaborate to develop environment definitions, they ensure that Dev understands and deals with the production-like environment, avoid architectural miscommunications. So many a time when Dev and in earlier scenarios or the traditional software development methodologies, when development and operation teams were segregated and they had a strict boundary between them, in that case, whenever there used to be any kind of collaboration or communication, often whenever there is a production-like environment to be created, may it be for testing or may it be for development, or maybe when the real thing is being released into production, often there used to be architectural miscommunication. So those kind of miscommunications no more exist in DevOps. And then for business, there is no separate dev and ops. It is more unified and streamlined. So let's think from the business point of view. All those business users, or maybe the business analysts, product managers, or the managers, for them, there is no separate division between development team and the ops. For them, it is a unified entity. It is streamlined. So they know end-to-end flow right away from development till operation, IT operations. Everything is so much crystal clear to the management as well as to the business users. So I believe such kind of things, they create a bigger picture. DevOps has created a bigger picture, not only for the development and operation, but also for the management and the business users. Let's move on to our next streamline, next value. Dev continuously delivers application changes to a realistic environment for testing. Development team continuously deliver application changes to a realistic environment for testing. What is the value associated to it? Now, since the shared technology ensures the stable environment and a script to use for repeatable delivery, test organization always has a good build to test and properly deployed. So whenever DevOps, they create or they provide a build for the testing team, it is no more into broken state, because it is already via automation testing or via deployment testing or logs or via different methods, it has already been checked, and there's a much more stable build to be tested or to be deployed for the users. And same way, continuous testing with continuous integration ensures continuous deployment. And this continuous testing with continuous integration and continuous deployment, all these 3 points together lead to continuous delivery, may it be for users or may it be for testers. Release applications from test or staging to production. Okay. Now, this point talks about shared technology and automation, no necessary difference between shared technology and automation ensures no necessary difference between dev, test, and production. Earlier, there used to be a separate set of differences between development, test, or production environment, but now with test or staging and moving to production, every environment maintained by DevOps is more or less same. There is no necessary difference between dev, test, or production environment. Right. The next value, automated quality gates for automatic checks and immediate feedback irrespective of the environment. With DevOps coming into picture, now there is more emphasis on the automated quality gates, with automatic checks being performed right away when the user is trying to trigger a build, or he's trying to commit a change, and when the change is being merged and a build is triggered or a build is deployed. For all those things, there's automated quality checks being performed. And a quick feedback is provided irrespective to the environment in which all these things are being performed. In my upcoming slides, I'll show you the exact flow, how from user, how from a development team to testing team and to the DevOps team, and then finally to the business users, this whole workflow works. So I'll show you in detail in my upcoming slides. Incident management. It has a value like it ensures an integrated process for reproducing and resolving defects and issues between dev, test, and ops. So since everything, development and operations, they are integrated together, so it becomes very fast to reproduce and resolve defects and issues. And cross-functional communication becomes also very fast between development, testing, and operations team. Second value, dev and ops use the same analysis and instrumentation in dev, test, and operations. Now, there is no difference between dev and ops, so same analysis and instrumentation is used, may it be dev, or may it be in testing stage, or may it be for operations. So everybody has a clear sight from end to end. And then it has one more value. It ensures a common understanding of quality and performance and no finger pointing. Yes, this is a very important point and a very important value for DevOps. Earlier, whenever there used to be any failure, now after failure, there used to be root cause analysis, and everybody used to talk about who is the main culprit, why this thing happened. So development will do a root cause analysis and figure out was it missed by developers, and then after developers, testers used to figure out, okay, something wrong with the testing. If not testing, then IT operations will check out if something was wrong with the deployment. If not, there's other set of business user or the business analysts and managers will figure out, okay, something was wrong with the requirement itself. So different people at different stages of software development, they used to figure out things, and then there used to be a finger pointing kind of scenario wherein people were always finger pointing on others that because of this, or we figure out he was the main person because of this thing happened. But with DevOps coming into picture, this thing has been eradicated. This thing has been removed from IT development. Now there's no more finger pointing. People, teams, they work together, they work seamlessly, made with development, made with operations, and sometimes even management team. Everybody works in together, and they have a clear visibility. End-to-end things are very much visible. Goals are very much visible to everyone. Implementation is very much visible to everyone. And then they go ahead and release something to their users. If something is wrong, then okay, it is taken as a failure, or it is taken as a feedback, and then everybody try to improve on their end. So it's a cumulative effort, and there is no more finger pointing. I personally find this point very interesting for DevOps, and that is the reason I keep on recommending folks to go ahead with DevOps, because this is very good, not only for individuals, not only for teams, whereas for the whole project and for the whole team as a whole. Now, manage the entire delivery pipeline with end-to-end visibility and dashboards. So over here, the value is enable end-to-end delivery matrices and greater visibility into bottleneck. So now from the manager side of view, or the management side of view, or from the business analyst or product owners, they can see, they can have end-to-end delivery matrices and greater visibility into the bottlenecks. Everything is very much clear for them, and business stakeholders get a better view of the development process as a whole. So this is the point which I was talking earlier, that business stakeholders, they get a better view of development process. Earlier it was like a black box, but now they know everything, what is happening and where it is happening and where are we stuck, where are the bottlenecks, how can we improve it. If they keep on getting feedbacks on very often basis, because of which everybody is on the same page and they try to improve, and then by improving they can ensure that the high quality thing is released to users, that too in a very strict timelines. So this seems to be a very good value because of the DevOps. Now, moving on to our next slide, I'll talk about the differences between typical traditional way of approach, or typical traditional methodologies for software development, and then we have Agile way of software development, and finally we have DevOps with Agile. Why waterfall methodology, or Agile methodology, or only DevOps methodology, how they are different, and which are the approach which you should be using in your system, and why, or is there any way if we can combine this? So in this slide, we'll talk about such kind of issues and solutions. Stakeholders and communication chain in a typical IT process. So when I say typical IT process, it would be more like a waterfall, whereas in most of the banks or places where they have very less chances, or their tolerance level for the defects is very less, they generally still go with something like waterfall, wherein everything is very defined and they keep on moving in a staged manner. So over here, customer and software requirement is a separate phase. There's a gap between developer and testers, and then again there's a gap between operation and IT infrastructure. So all these three teams, they are separated, and there's a gap between them, and it is done willingly, because everybody wants that whenever something is given to them, that should be complete, and then only they'll go ahead and move forward and start working. So when software requirement and customer requirement or software requirement is totally completed by the business analyst, they only provide it to then only it is, if it is finalized, then only developers, they start working on it. Developers, once they start working on it and they're done with their testing and all, then they provide it to IT operations and infrastructure, and then they go ahead and deploy it. So there is a strict gap between all these three divisions. In Agile methodologies, Agile addresses the gap in customer and developer communication. So over here, when it comes to Agile, there is no communication gap. The communication gap between customer and developer is resolved, and there is a greater set of bonding between customer and software requirement, developer and tester. So they seem to be more unified and seamless. As I talked about, collaboration, communication, and learning and improving, this takes place very often in case of Agile, and the gap between software requirement, customers, developers, and testers is removed, but still there is a gap between IT operations and infrastructure. So even though customers and developer and testers, they are unified, but there is a gap between these two and with IT operations and infrastructures. Now we talk about DevOps. In DevOps approach, DevOps addresses the gaps in developer and IT operation communication. So over here, the developer tester, the development team, and the IT operation and infrastructure team, the gap between them is removed and they become more unified. They become like a single unit, and no more gap. Things become very fast. You keep on developing, and at the same time, it gets deployed and released, and it gets tested. I'll show you how in my upcoming slides. So this is like a DevOps system. Most of the startups, most of the companies, they either go by Agile or they go by DevOps. Now, if you combine Agile approach with DevOps, I would suggest that is the fastest and the best way to do any kind of software development. So just imagine if you combine Agile approach with DevOps, so there will be no gap between customer and software requirement with the developer and testers. And then with development team and testing team, there will be no gap between IT operations and infrastructure. Now that is the most wanted situation, most feasible situation for the software developers and IT development team. So in ideal situation, if you want to grow, you want to have no gap, no misunderstandings, no miscommunications between your users, customers, and your development team, then Agile. And if you want no communication gap, misunderstandings, or issues between your development team and IT operation, then DevOps. And combining this both gives you a perfect pipeline from end-to-end software delivery, that too in a very fast pace. So I recommend, if you're a new team and you want to grow and you have chances, just follow some Agile principles and then combine it with DevOps, and together you can see your delivery, your product, all these things, they will increase a lot. Means they increase in quality, they increase in speed, they'll increase in delivery time, means lower delivery time. So you can do more and more number of releases in less number of times, and dependency on each other will be removed, and people will become more and more unified. Overall team visibility will increase. Everybody will be aware of others' job. There's several different benefits which I'll talk about in my upcoming slide. So let's move on to the next one. Many of you might have seen this cup or this logo. Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it? Even I'm sipping a coffee in the same cup next to me. So keep calm and do DevOps. With DevOps, there come a concept of calms. Now, what exactly it is, let me explain it to you. CALMS is a conceptual framework for integration of development and operation team, function and system within an organization. Now, CALMS framework is often used as a maturity model. It helps managers to evaluate whether or not their organization is ready for DevOps, or if not ready, then what needs to change and what needs to be improved. So it seems like a maturity model. If you want to implement DevOps into your team, you have to do this integration in your team, and then you have to figure out whether your team is ready to go ahead with DevOps. If not, then you have, depending upon the outcomes from calm analysis, then comes analysis, then you have to go ahead and make some changes, and then you'll be ready for the DevOps implementation. Let's see what is this CALMS. So CALMS, C stands for culture. There's a culture of shared responsibility. As I talked earlier, everybody who is attached to a DevOps team or who is practicing DevOps, over there is no individual responsibility. It's a team responsibility. End to end, it works in a seamless manner, and everybody is knowing what other persons are doing. Their roles and responsibilities are very much clear, and most of the time it is a shared responsibility, and together they rise and together they fall. So anything depending upon the feedback is like there's a continuous feedback loop, and depending on the feedback, teams they start working, maybe with development, testing, or IT operations team, they work in together, and this is a culture of shared responsibility. So you have to figure out before implementing this DevOps thing, there should be a culture of shared responsibility. No more individual responsibilities, whereas there should be shared responsibility, and everybody is responsible for everything some way or the other. And then you have automation. Team members seek out ways to automate as many tasks as possible and are comfortable with the idea of continuous delivery. When you say continuous delivery, that can happen only if you have continuous deployment, continuous integration, and continuous testing. And when I say continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing, they all need to be done, irrespective of the testers, developers, or IT operations guy. And how it can be done? It can be done via machines using automation. So, as and when, where it is possible, any kind of task, you have to automate it if it can be automated. That is the idea behind continuous delivery. The third one is lean. Team members are able to visualize work in progress, limit the batch size, and manage queue length. Lean principles are implemented, and then everybody has to know what kind of work is in progress, what is the batch size, and manage the queue length. And they have to figure out, mainly they have to work on the wastages, how to eliminate the wastages in the current of the existing process. And then if there's an existing process in which you have certain kind of wastages, if you remove those wastages, you tend to get lean. So it's all about getting lean. And then measurement, data is collected on everything, and then there's mechanism in place that provide visibility into all systems. So until unless something is measured, you might be doing a lot many things to improve, but until unless that is measurable, there is no point. You have to measure. So initially, before starting, what was the point where you started? Data is collected for everything, and you have to have different kind of metrics and mechanisms in place to measure it. And then once you start implementing, where have you reached? What are the improvements? And which are the areas which needs to be improved? Where are the failures? Depending on the feedback, depending on the data, you have to keep on learning, evolving, and growing. And the last one is sharing. There are user-friendly communication channels that encourage ongoing communication between development and operation. Maybe within the team, inter-team or intra-team, you have to look for sharing. More, the whole idea of DevOps is based upon a very crystal clear collaboration and communication, and there shouldn't be any miscommunication, and that can happen only if there's a clear set of sharing rules. So everybody should be having a very nice communication channel, open communication channel, and development and operations should share things as much as reusability can be practiced. That should be done, and this can happen only if there is a clear set of communications and there is no miscommunication between different kind of teams. With this, we move on to our next slide, and this is the slide which talks about DevOps process. What is the DevOps process and how exactly it works? So, many of you might have seen this diagram somewhere or the other. Most of the websites or most of the channels, blogs, presentations, they have this figure of 8 in front of you whenever we talk about DevOps. So let me talk about few of the different processes or the steps of DevOps. First of all, we'll talk about code. So I'll start with the code. Coding is something when developers, as soon as they have the requirement, they start working on it. and then it is being coded. The code is then built with every commit. A automated check is generated, and that check checks whether your code is working fine. Unit tests have been put together, and all the tests are green. And then that code is moved to the build version. In build version, it is verified that all the other regression test cases, automated test cases, and the other unit test cases for the checks, they are green. From build process, the build is provided to the testing team. Testing team go ahead and they perform different kind of testing made with system integration, functional, using different kind of testing techniques. They go ahead exploratory testing. If you want to know different kind of testing, please feel free to refer my other videos, or refer my blogs. I have explained them in detail. I have several other webinars explaining different kind of testing methodologies. So it is tested, the code is tested, code inside the build is tested, and then it is rolled out or released. Now, once it is released, maybe on a staging or production or somewhere else, from a release process, it is then what happens, it is taken and it is deployed at different kind of servers. And then the ops guys, they go ahead and manage it. They go ahead and check it, the different kind of server systems, different kind of loggings, issues. If at all there was anything that has to be managed, configuration management, versioning, all these things, they are taken care by ops guys. And then they monitor. Once these things they are in place, they monitor it. They monitor it for any kind of ambiguities, issues, and problems. If at all you have any kind of thing, at every level we have a feedback. Feedback is generated, and then depending on the feedback, the next level improves. And then they go ahead and plan. The business and the development team and the ops, they come together and they plan. And depending on the plan, again, new set of requirements are designed, and depending on the feedback, planning is improved. And this process of coding, build, testing, release, deployment, operations, monitoring, and planning, it keeps on going in an iterative manner. And this is the way they ensure continuous delivery is ensured for our users. Whenever a company they deploy, whenever a company they use DevOps, this is the way they ensure that everybody, all of the users, may it be internal or external users. When I say internal users, it comprises of development guys, or the testers, business analysts, or the operation guys, or may it be the external users, the real-time business users. This is the way they keep on getting continuous build time to time with a high quality product. Now, three processes which are very important, three set of processes which are very important in DevOps: collaborate and manage, seamless development and support, and agile development methodologies. I already talked about these three in my previous slides. So these three things are very important if you want to implement DevOps in your organization or in your project. Collaborate and manage, it will remove any kind of miscommunication, and it will make more and more clear between the teams, the set of responsibility and shared set of responsibilities. And it will be easier for managers to manage end-to-end the whole system. And then seamless development and support, everybody in the team, they get unified and they share this set of responsibility, and everybody support towards achieving a common goal. And then agile development methodologies. So different set of agile methodologies are being used along with lean principles, and thus the DevOps become very much effective. I already talked about it in my previous slide. So in this way, using these three methodologies, these three processes, or these three basic principles in DevOps become a agent for, or DevOps become a method for continuous delivery. Now, let's talk about the DevOps tool. Most of the people, they have this question after seeing this continuous delivery model. They have this question in their mind, okay, what are the different kind of tools which can be used for different kind of process or different kind of stages while someone is practicing DevOps? So now, to make it more clear, I have come up with this slide. I hope this should be helpful for you to understand what kind of different kind of tools are being used at different stages of DevOps. So if I have to divide different kind of DevOps tool, I'll divide it into 6 categories. First category would be infrastructure automation, which would be something like AWS, Amazon Web Services. And then you have configuration management, example is Chef. Then you have deployment automation, Jenkins, performance management, something like AppDynamic, log management, you may have Splunk, and monitoring using Nagios. So let's see. If you see here, let's talk about code. Coding, different kind of code. It can be committed or add, updated, or deleted using Git or Subversion, the code management system. And then build can be generated using Gradle or Apache Ant, or even using Maven. You can integrate in your existing system for build system. And then for testing, we have Selenium, we have NUnit, JUnit, different kind of testing frameworks available to us. Then it is released out and it is deployed. For deployment, you can use CodeShip or Visual Studio Team Foundation servers, also Jenkins, TeamCity. For monitoring, you have AppDynamics, New Relic, Nagios, and for planning, you have Jira and different kind of tools available. These are the most famous one which I have used over in this slide, but you're free to choose anything as per your project requirement or as per your organization requirement. And operation part is done by the DevOps engineers, and they take care of everything, how exactly this whole structure is being maintained, and all of this process, they keep on moving in seamless manner. So that is taken care by DevOps guys. Now, this is something which I was talking in my previous slide when I told you that how is the feedback mechanism working in a typical DevOps operation, DevOps mechanism, how exactly feedback works, and how do we ensure continuous delivery. So here with this example, I'll explain it to you. So you can see we have a delivery team on the extreme left. Delivery team, they keep on, which include developers and testers, they keep on developing something, and depending upon the business requirement from customers or management or business team, they go ahead and develop some code, they check in, and depending upon the check-in, there's a version control system. It triggers a build. For that build, unit test cases are verified if they are read. So if the unit test case for those codes are read, it will trigger a feedback, and feedback will be generated to the development team. They'll go ahead, make those changes, make that test pass. They'll again check in. Again, version control will provide a new version. For this new version, build and unit test will be verified. And then if it is green, it will go ahead and trigger automated acceptance test. This automated acceptance test, if they are red, in that case, a feedback will be generated, and then delivery team will be again notified. They'll go ahead and make some changes so that the automated acceptance test should pass. Again, the code is checked in, trigger is implemented, build and unit test is verified, and then acceptance test is checked again. If they pass, it is green, it is sent ahead to user acceptance test. If user acceptance test and software testers and the business users, they go ahead and do different kind of testing, that is like system testing, integration testing, and regression testing on that build. Everything looks okay, they provide a feedback, and then depending upon the approval from the QA team, it goes ahead to the release. And in this way, the whole release cycle keeps on working. And in this manner, the feedback mechanism, the whole team, development team and the operations team, they keep on getting frequent feedbacks throughout the process of DevOps. And this is very important for a successful DevOps to work in a perfect manner. You need to have a mechanism wherein you get feedback, regular feedback for any kind of failures, and depending on those failures, you improvise your system, you improvise your code, you improvise your process, you go ahead and fix it, and then everything passes and a high quality product is then rolled out in production and released for your users. This is the way feedback mechanism work in DevOps. Let's talk about DevOps principles. Now we talked a lot about the technicality and the functional diagram and the workflow, how exactly DevOps works, why it came into picture, and what are the things which are done in order to have a perfect DevOps working system within the organization. Let's talk about DevOps principles. So I have mentioned 5 main principles that you can, if you go and Google out or you do some online search, you can figure out a lot many DevOps principles. But personally, I believe these are the main 5 DevOps principles, which are very important for anybody who is thinking to implement DevOps in their system or in their organization or in their project. So the first DevOps principle is customer-centric action. Must take customer-centric action. For that, they should constantly invest in products and service. It is the customer who is always investing in your, or who is paying for your product and services. So whole of the DevOps should be customer-centric. They must take actions so that the customers or the end users is always benefited. So all the actions which DevOps team has to take, somehow or the other, it should be business related and must be taken by keeping customers in their mind. End-to-end responsibility. Need to provide a performance support until they become end of the life. This enhances the level of responsibility and the quality of products engineered. So the performance end-to-end responsibility is everybody here is a team and they have a shared responsibility. So the performance support till the end of life of a product is very important, and the level of responsibility, with this increased level of responsibility, the quality of product increases. Continuous improvement. DevOps culture focuses on continuous improvement to minimize waste. It continuously speeds up the improvement of product and services offered. As I already said, it is about continuous feedback, and with continuous feedback, you keep on improving continuously. So DevOps culture is based upon continuous improvement, and with this, they minimize the waste. So it becomes more and more lean. And since they get lean, wastages are removed. Ultimately, they become fast. So with continuous improvement comes the leanness and comes the speediness. Automate everything. Vital not only for the software development, but also for the entire infrastructure landscape. So when and wherever it is possible, go ahead and automate. It is not only important for the software development, but also for the infrastructure side of the DevOps, where there are so many open source tools available, and currently the market is evolving like anything. There's so many things available in the market. All you need to do is to keep on learning and improvising and implementing new set of technologies, and then you have to automate as and when wherever it is possible. Monitor and test everything. It is very important for DevOps team to have a robust monitoring and testing procedures. So as I already said, in order to have a proper kind of feedback, you have to have a proper kind of monitoring system. And then when you have a proper monitoring system, along with monitoring, you have to verify all your findings. Means you have to have a proper testing system. With proper monitoring and testing system, then only you can develop a proper DevOps. If your monitoring and testing system is weak, your feedback system will be weak. And if your feedback system is weak, your whole DevOps model will crumble down. It is not going to work. So if you want to have a proper DevOps system working within your organization or in your project or in your team, you have to focus on these 5 DevOps principles. And then if only these 5 principles are working fine, they are meeting, then only your DevOps system will be working in a perfect condition. Let's talk about the DevOps benefits. So most of the organizations who are using DevOps improved software quality of software development. 63% of them have seen improved quality of software deployments. Then about 63% of organizations have seen more frequent software releases. Improved visibility into IT process and requirement has been observed by 61% of the users and teams. Culture change. Yes, this is a very important point. The way of collaboration and cooperation, or the finger pointing mechanism, which earlier used to be the part of IT culture, has not changed. And 55% of organizations, they are seeing a culture change. More responsiveness to business needs. 55% of the companies, they find they cater to the business needs in a much faster way. More agile development, DevOps when used with agile, it becomes the best possible combination. Nearly half, 50% of the companies after adding agile and DevOps, they can see they are getting actually the benefits of agile development. More agile change management process. The change management process is no more stringent. It has become more agile and robust. Nearly 45% of users and teams, they are getting benefited out of it. Improved quality code, improved quality of code. The code which was being used and for the development and then for the build and then it was tested. Now it is observed that 38% of the organizations, they can see an improvement in the code quality. So overall, the quality of teamwork, may it be on the management side, may it be on the business side, may it be on the collaboration, may it be the company culture, may it be the business need, may it be the overall quality of the product being shipped to the users, there is always an increase if you start using this DevOps within your organization. Most of the organizations, they have received this benefit, and if you do by going to certain kind of surveys and studies, I have taken these points. These numbers may vary, but most of the time, if you ask somebody, go ahead and ask somebody who is already implementing DevOps in his system along with Agile or Lean Principle, you'll see they'll surely say you. I'm pretty much sure if you talk to them, they'll share this feeling with you that yes, after implementing DevOps and Agile, they can see a difference in what exactly it was earlier with the traditional approach. So it's my personal belief, if implemented correctly, it is surely going to give you lots and lots of benefit. Now let's talk about some real-world DevOps example. I guess most of you, 1 out of every 2 or almost everyone nowadays, they are Facebook users. Nobody has a computer, more or less everybody using Facebook. So let's talk about a DevOps real-world example. And my example number 1 is Facebook. So I'll tell you a story. In year 2011, Facebook launched a different kind of UI, and it revamped its look by changing the timeline, music, ticker, calendar, some events, and a lot many changes were done in year 2011. And then it was rolled out to worldwide to almost every user across the world. Now, challenges that Facebook faced that day, it was feature released to over 500 million users. All these features which I mentioned, these revamped features, were released to 500 million users across the globe. There was a heavy website traffic, and the servers, Facebook servers, they meltdown. There was mixed response from users, which led to no conclusion. They wanted to take feedback and want to know how exactly was the benefit and what were the findings and what was the user response. But there was a mixed response. They couldn't figure out, they couldn't come to a conclusion because they were not able to process the data properly. And there was a mixed response and there was a server meltdown. So somehow it was like not a Facebook kind of thing, and they were pretty upset with this update and the way it was rolled out. So what was done by the Facebook? Facebook then came up with an idea which was based upon continuous development, continuous testing. Basically, it was based upon DevOps concepts, and they called it dark launching. Yes, Facebook, whenever they had a new feature, they went ahead and tested it, they monitored it, gathered the feedback, and depending upon the bugs, either they roll it back or they go ahead and fix it again and keep on integrating it on continuous basis on existing features. They keep on updating it on existing features, and once it is updated, they keep on deploying it for their users. If at all anybody is having any problem, they go ahead and fix it again, as we have seen the feedback mechanism. So to implement dark launching, they had used the fundamentals of DevOps lifecycle, which included something like continuous development, continuous testing, continuous integration, continuous deployment, and continuous monitoring. So now whatever you see, any kind of feature, new feature which is being rolled out to you or any user across the world, that is the result of this dark launching thing based upon DevOps. So this was my first real-time example of use of DevOps for the users, and you know how successful they are now. They can use it every time they launch anything. They do it in such a nice manner. That is really a very nice set of example, I must say. The other example which I'd say is Netflix. I guess it is #1 company for video streaming nowadays, or maybe the Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime, anyways, they are based upon DevOps and they have their own set of infrastructure, AWS. But Netflix is also one of the ones which is using DevOps on a very frequent basis. In year 2011, I guess 2011 or something, they came with the concept of cow's monkey. So earlier people used to point fingers to each other in case of failures, but then they came up with a tool which was a framework and methodology based upon chaos monkey. And Netflix now uses this chaos monkey model and chaos monkey tool for their deployments, and they are completely based upon DevOps mechanism. So any failure is no more a cause for blame. It is a vehicle for change, learning, and improvement. This is what they do, and this is what they implement. May it be any major company, but if they're implementing DevOps, they have to rely upon this basic principle. Failure is not a cause of blame. It is a vehicle for change, learning, and improvement. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. Folks, as most of you who are attending this webinar, if it is your first time, I'm Prashant Kumar, a QA evangelist and software testing enthusiast. I'm Bachelor in Computers, PG specialization in management from Harvard University and ICMS Sydney. I'm having 12 plus years of experience in Java development, business analysis, test consultancy, and finally I'm working as a quality head for one of the major IT startups. I have worked in various IT firms, investment banks, and startups across US, UK, Switzerland, Germany, and India. Please feel free to subscribe my channel, subscribe to my blog, or get in touch with me via LinkedIn. If you have any QA-related queries, suggestion, or you want me to mentor you, please feel free to get in touch with me, drop me a mail or chat, and I'll get back to you. Thank you, friends. I look forward to your support. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. Bye-bye.